Well, hello, hi all, and welcome to the Observability and Security stream for day 3 of DevOps Pro Europe. On first glance, I thought this session was going to be about regular old TDD, but look again, this is a different phrasing, trust-driven development. I love that phrase. So many organizations are on a journey to DevOps, and you certainly can't unite all the teams on day one, especially in large corporate settings where there are often significant physical and cultural barriers between distinct teams of developers, operations, and change management. So how do you align these silos better when getting change underway? Let me introduce Tomasz Manugiewicz, who has spent many years refining this approach to
I,
take us through this. Over to you, Tomasz.
yeah, okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this event. Within the next 45 minutes, I would like to present you the topic of trust. So let me share my screen and we can go from there. Bear with me. Okay. Can you hear me well and see my screen well?
All good. All good, Tomasz.
Perfect. All good. All right. So today it's time to talk about trust in development. For me as an engineer, those were two contradiction words: trust, which is something intangible, and development, which is something tangible. So I dig into this and I found that it's really engineering topic, trust. And today I will show you why it's engineering topic and why it's so important to have it in our teams. Let's focus on the moment on the VUCA world. That's the term that defines our nowadays world today. It was invented after Second World War in 1987, and it basically means that we live in volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. We can observe it every day. We observe it since 2 years when the pandemic started. Right now, we're observing it with the conflict and the war in the Ukraine. So this is difficult for us to operate, and we know that. However, on the other hand, we are in development world, and we would like to still develop our skills and products for our clients. And agile world, I know that for some of you it sounds familiar. There are a couple of aspects that we have a challenge with. The first aspect is the market dynamic. Every day, new startups popping up, closing down. There are a lot of new brilliant ideas to develop applications, and there are a lot of failures during that, which is how we learn, actually. So the market is really dynamic. The clients on the market are really demanding, and they come to us asking about product, developing the product, but they don't actually know the requirements perfectly, right? In my career, I had a lot of questions from the clients that, hey, we have the brilliant idea. We would like to develop brilliant solution, but we don't know exact requirements. So for those of you who are more focused on product side, you may be familiar with this challenge. Then we have complex problems. We as engineers, we are here to solve the riddles, solve the complex problems. So I assume this is good for us to always challenge ourselves, but definitely we have complex challenges in our work. And last but not least, and actually very first, it's the money. So the budget-wise. Clients are asking us how much does it cost, but actually we don't know. We have some techniques like planning poker and other ones to estimate our projects, but I guess you know all this stuff that developers estimate the project and then timeline is extended and the budget is extended, and we are ending up with the tough conversation sometimes with the clients. So those 4 parameters I defined for myself, and it stands for me as a VUCA world. So comparing those two, I see VUCA world as an external system that we are operate in, and the MUCA world, which is our daily jobs. And trust is actually the answer for that. How to operate. You can see right now the 4 sentences for Agile Manifesto. I guess all of us know that. What I would like to tell you, it's all about trust. Because when we interact between each other, when we have individuals and interaction space, it's all about trust. We need to trust each other in order to cooperate effectively. We need to collaborate with our customer, not just negotiating the contract or fighting about the budget, about the money and deliverables. We need to collaborate with them. So also the clients need to trust us that yes, we are skilled, we will deliver a good solution for them. Responding to change, as I said, nowadays world is very dynamic, and we need to have trust in us, in ourselves, that yes, I have the skills, I have the knowledge, I'm capable to respond to the changing environment and deliver software at the end. So that's why it's important. And now a little bit engineering part, or reverse engineering, I would say, about trust. So what that really means, I was doing some research and I found those 2 aspects of trust: cognitive aspect of trust and emotional aspect of trust. Cognitive aspect is transmitted through thinking. So all the things that we have in our mind, if we can show it to our clients and our managers and our colleagues, they can trust us. They can see that we have skills, we have knowledge, and we have expertise. If we have those 3, people can basically rely on us, on our competencies, and they can trust us as engineers. This guy is knowledgeable and will deliver the software. So that's one part of trust, and I will tell you how to build it. At the end, we produce the results. So when we have those aspects, we produce the results, people see the results, and people can trust us. But this is not the only one. The second aspect of trust is emotional aspect. Emotional aspect is transmitted through feelings. So those feelings are those emotions in us that that are triggered when we see other people's. And so when we see intentions of other people, if we see the person who is open, who is transparent with us, we can trust this person. When we see that this person is honest with us, also trust is being built by honesty. And this is all about being in integrity. So if our words follows our actions, we can say that we are in integrity. And people can see that, but also can feel that subconsciously. So those 2 aspects are logic and emotional. And for me, trust is basically on those 2. Competences you have and you develop, and the character you have and you present to the others. Let's focus a little bit about the cognitive aspect of trust, or let's say cognitive intelligence. Cognitive intelligence is basically the obvious intelligence world that come to our minds that we think about intelligence. So it is about analysis. We do the analysis. It's about logic. We have logic inside our CPUs, inside our brains, who calculates our signals from the world and produce the outcome. So basic system, not such basic, but the input and output, right? We use the language, specific language, obviously language like English, French, and so on and so forth, but we do have the language, our technical language. And that's where the issues come from between the business side and the technical side, that when technical people are talking about pull request, deployment frequency, they are talking about automation methods and so on. Those are the obvious words for us as engineers. But if the business guys hear that, they don't have any clue, and that's okay. They don't have any clue because they have different role, but they somehow need to understand our language in order to trust us. And we are working based on our data. So we are data-driven people. We love, I guess, metrics, data about our software, about performance of our software, and so on. The other aspect that I mentioned is called emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is easy to define, difficult to execute. So, definition that I would say for emotional intelligence is basically recognize and understand and manage our emotions. So, the states that we are at the beginning of the day when we wake up and we feel in a such way, but sometimes we don't even focus on ourselves and don't recognize ourselves, our emotions. But also, it is about recognize, understand, and manage emotions of others. So the first step is to recognize our emotions, and the second step, as a leaders in the organization, we need to not only as a leaders, but as a leaders mostly, we need to understand emotions of others. If we have tough conversation about such solution or architecture patterns or something like this, we can uh, have the discussion about that, have the strong discussion about that. But obviously, those discussions are triggering emotions in us and in our colleagues. So we need to know how to recognize that. So basically, for us as engineers, we need to embrace our emotional part. I know how it sounds because I was a Java developer like 15 years ago, and when someone was talking about emotions, I was say like, "Well, I developed the code. I know everything from the technical perspective. I don't care about any emotions. I'm just angry, for example." But yes, there are a lot of emotions that a lot of states that we can be in, and that's okay. We are all humans, and we need to embrace that. And this is the only way, I would say, not the only. I would put the asterisk there. Not the only one, but the most important one to break down silos in our organization. So if we have ecosystem like here, DevOps tools ecosystem from 2021, you can recognize all of the tools that are out there and you use them. If we were able to speak with each other face to face, I would love to ask you which tool you use in your company, if you use Docker or if you use Puppet or Chef or other tools. We love that. We love implementing those tools and love playing with it. That's our job, our passion, usual. But those tools are not built in the siloed mode. They are, you see the vertical differentiation between the tools, but I call it domain. So there is a domain of building software, there is a domain of testing software, there's a domain of operational activities like DevOps, running, like deployments, like running on production, like monitoring and so on. And what companies usually do, they build the silos, right? We have software development team building software. We have QA team building QA automation tools and so on. And this is a little bit challenge. I know that it's being changing nowadays, and I like it that the barriers are moving or disappearing, and this is because of trust. So if at the beginning, if we had development team working alongside with the QA team separately, they may not trust each other. The developers can say, I remember those conversations between QAs guys and devs guys. We are developing the software, yes, but those QAs they don't know even functionality and they're just raising some bugs in Jira. Come on, it's working for me, this type of stuff. Instead, when we have trust between those two groups, they can collaborate between each other, and also they can share the duties. So, for example, test automations guys can jump in for some development tasks at the beginning, easy ones, and developers can write some automation code. The same with operations. That's all the DevOps movement or DevOps chain that we are discussing nowadays. It's basically it. Developers working with the operations, sharing the responsibilities as a team for a one code base, for a one product. And this is about working together, building trust. So operations guys need to prove or need to show developers that they are skilled, they have the knowledge, they would like to learn. Maybe they are not so skilled as a developers, but they would like to be involved in the development process. And trust is being built. On the other side, developers also need to work with the operations and say, yes, actually, I can deploy this to production, or I can work with Nagios to see some logs going on, because I would like to share the responsibilities with you guys for delivering product. And then if we have this one team working together, we have one goal, delivering product, we have one mission, that the product will be super fancy and will earn a lot of money for our client, and we can operate under one umbrella. Obviously, there are a lot of people in this chain, so it's not like this that it will be one big family developing software. Obviously, we need to have some sub teams, but that's why the idea of cross-functional teams came to the world, to have shared responsibilities and ownership on the team rather than on the roles. And again, if we take into consideration trust and those removing those barriers, we see that those development tools and the stack can be used by various people, not just in silos, but in one cross-functional team. And this is the way how to gain autonomy. I usually ask people in the audience who would like to have autonomy, and they say, yes, everyone would like to have the autonomy. It is good because it shows us that we are free to do stuff. We have the freedom, and someone trusted us, right? It's not a good feeling that my product owner trusts me and doesn't need to approve every single change I'm deploying. That's the way. If the people will trust us in the development chain, we will get more and more autonomy. It's even visible in the DevOps evolution model. There are a few stages on the line how to automate and how to improve our DevOps toolchain. But there is one particular point that I would like to tell you. Actually, I've just mentioned it. Individuals can work without manual approval from outside the team. We are all fighting for that, right? We as engineers, we would like to have this power as well to deploy something to production right away. On the other hand, we as the product owners would like to give this responsibility to the team, because sometimes product owner, they have like 100 items to approve, and it's very tough to follow and to agree on everything step by step. So we see this desire of autonomy, we see this desire of trust, and even in this model, we see that this is a good step forward. In the middle of the way, on the stage 3, but this is a good step forward to improve our process. And when we have that, software can be deployed more frequently. So if we are talking about CI/CD pipelines and frequently deployments, small deployments, there are a lot of tools which supports that, and that's needed. But the crucial point, as far as I'm concerned, is this approval, is click. Yes, I approve going to production. I would like to also focus a little bit for some emotional aspects that I mentioned. And I would like to introduce Brené Brown, American psychologist, or she said about herself, researcher, storyteller. So she's the researcher doing the research about various aspects of human's life. Also, she talks about trust, she talks about vulnerability, and so on and so forth. And she said that trust is not being built with the big sweeping moments. It's built in a tiny moment every day. Tiny moment every day. So this is not like this that you come to the company, you show your CV, show your skill set, and the people will trust you right away. You need to establish relationship with them step by step, and also you need to start trusting also your teammates, right? So they also need to build trust with you. It's a mutual process. So how it looks like? You are happy, you are joining a new company, you have this honeymoon with a new company, everything's working fine. You meet your colleagues and hey, in ideal world, obviously, say, hey, great to have you here, we would like to work together. And that's the very first moment. And then our brain subconsciously observes others and assess if we can trust them or not. So that your colleague, as you are new in the company, your colleague observes you every single moment. Observes you in the second one, in the third one, every single moment, a lot of moments that he or she observes you. And finally, the trust is being built step by step. You are very close to each other, you can trust each other, and that's where the team spirit and the team is born and the relationships between you are born. Then, if you have these relationships, you can argue, obviously, it's something that can bring us benefit, but you know that you can rely on those other people. So even if you have the argument, you will finally come to the conclusion. And why I'm talking about that for you as engineers? Because we have some practices, very popular practices that actually subconsciously rely on trust. We have pair programming, for example. And again, I would love to ask you, who of you have the challenge with sitting together with your colleague at pair program? In this setup, I can't, but I can imagine your answers. So this is challenging, right? Pair programming, sitting together, writing the same code. Why is it so challenging? Because there's a fear, subconscious fear of being assessed. I'm writing a code. I'm a junior developer. There is a senior developer sitting next to me. What he or she thinks about my code, is it good enough, or am I skilled enough? Or the other way around, the senior developer sits with the junior, trying to be senior, right? But he or she can have the thoughts in the mind. I'm a senior developer. I should drive this process. I should be the one mentoring. But actually, I don't have this knowledge about that. Can I admit to this second person that this one I don't know? I need to learn something, maybe from the other person. So this is our subconscious process, which is going in our minds and obviously taking the energy from us and taking some CPU from our brain to think about that. And there is a fear of rejection. So basically, the basis one is a fear of rejection. Am I skilled enough? If not, this person may reject me, may say, oh, I don't want to work with this guy. The team may reject me, and I will no longer belong to the team because they will say that I don't have the skill set and it is not worth to program with me. Also, when we have code review is also a challenging process. Why? Because you put your pull request out there to be assessed, and obviously it should be the code which is assessed. But frequently you can ask yourself the question if you are assessing the code or if you are assessing the author sometimes. I saw a lot of times many situations when the guys were sitting next to each other and they were putting a lot of comments into the pull request, like 100 of them, very long story, going on 1 week, and they were just not talking to each other face to face. They were just putting the comments. This is because this fear of rejection that we are more brave to put something in the comment than just to speak face to face. So this is a question about if we are assessed as authors or if just our code is assessed and we can still say, I'm good enough, I just need to improve my code. And that's where the Brené Brown comes again, because she talks about vulnerability. Vulnerability is, she says, that is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change, and many other things. So if you trust each other, you can be more, you can be yourself, basically. So what the vulnerability is for us as engineers, we may know this term. I found this shiny, beautiful definition of systems vulnerability. So systems vulnerability is basically a flaw or weakness of the system, which could be exploited to volatile the system. We even have some departments in our companies working about systems vulnerability. We have roles of the systems vulnerability engineers trying to find this weakness and improve that. But how it's referring to humans? So human vulnerability is actually a similar thing. It's willingness to show emotion to allow weaknesses to be seen. So basically, it's about seeing the weaknesses. But in human vulnerability, we are not talking about improving those weaknesses, or maybe improving at some point, yes, but we don't want to improve anyone from the group in terms of the emotion. We would like to just trust people. So what do we need to trust people? We need to see that they are true themselves. So if of you or some of us show our emotion and our weaknesses and are brave enough to say, yes, you know what, I was a great Java developer, but in Scala I'm a junior one. I'm learning. That's not about that you have the weakness in Java. That's about that you show yourself as a true self. And people subconsciously get the message. They don't get the message, or they may get the message that you don't know Scala yet. But the main message they are getting is, I can trust this guy because he can, or she can show us that he has some weaknesses, and that's totally fine. We are all humans, so we have all weaknesses, all kind of weaknesses in us, and that's human. So basically, I would say that not only DevOps, not only pair programming, but vulnerability is helping in development process, like, for example, Scrum. When you have your retrospective, let's say, you can have the fear, you can feel the fear in the room when your Scrum Master or someone who is facilitating retrospective asks, okay, what was good? Good, okay, that's fine. What was bad? What doesn't work? Let's focus on that. Okay, there are some blaming culture that can go on. Okay, so who is that fault? Usually that fault is outside of the team, right? So everyone else outside is involved and blamed. But this is exactly the mechanism where there is no trust or a little trust, that people can speak openly about challenges or weaknesses that we have. And again, that's okay because it's humans. Coming back to engineering details, I would love to say that some consultants, they can say, give me your metrics and I will tell you whatever you want to hear. Why is that? Is that exactly because of lack of trust? Because if we have metrics, like for example, there are a lot of metrics out there, I choose the DORA ones. If we have deployment frequency and we have tool which measure deployment frequency, and people who are asking, okay, how frequent you deploy to production? Obviously, you can make up those data and say, we are improving, we are deploying more and more frequently because we have smaller and smaller user stories. And those user stories are going every day, and the product owner, if there's not autonomy in the team, product owner has like 100 items every day to approve, because you have huge backlog of stories going to production. Obviously, that's not the case for the deployment frequency. And when I introduce the metrics, I'll usually tell people that this is not about judging. This is not about checking our performance. This is about checking where we are in our process, if there is anything that we can do. Lead time for changes. Again, we can cheat a little bit about lead time for changes. having smaller stores, right? Or deploying maybe to the production environment, because lead time for changes is supposed to be the metric which counts production deployments. So I saw this mechanism actually one of my team, that there are a lot of production deployments doing every day, very frequent deployments to prod. But the challenge was that there was a mechanism with a flag that the teams deployed to production, but saying, oh, this feature is not visible yet to the client. It is on production, yes, done, everything's done, but not visible to the client. And there, if there is a bug or something like this, they can say, oh, yeah, we need to go to production. We need to keep our lead time very high, very low, and have the very high piece. So we will go to production with this bug, okay? We will make this flag unavailable to the client, and then we will resolve the bug. So that's why we need to believe in our data, and also we need to trust our managers, and that's our leaders and managers' job, not to blame any other by metrics. Meantime to recover, the same thing, change failure rate. With this one, actually, I put it on this slide because I would love to hear from someone if there is any way to make up the numbers of change failure rate, because if it's failure, that's failure. But I guess there are some ideas how to cheat that. So basically, once again, I talked about talking about trust, and trust is the foundation of relationships. If we have good relationships with our product owner, we'll trust him and he will trust us. If we have good relationships with our leaders, we can show them real metrics that maybe they are not so shiny, not so green. Maybe there are a lot of red popping up everywhere, but we will trust that we will not be punished. Okay, so talking about relations, trust, and so on, but the COVID happened. COVID happened to us. So this is difficult for us to build relationships online. It's much easier when you were working offline with people and just switched in 2020 to online. But in my company, we have a lot of people, like more than 100 already, who joined the company during COVID, which means that they had online onboarding, they had online team meetings and introduction to the teams, and everything was online. It was hard to build trust and build relationships, I guess. You can judge, but for me, it was hard. We survived. We managed. We used a lot of tools to support us. We used video sharing tools. We used Miro Mural for collaboration. But this is not just a replacement of relationships face to face. We survived, but how to thrive? What's the answer for thriving? The answer for thriving is, again, to build software, but build relationships between each other and build trust. And that's why some of your teammates can encourage you to come to the office from time to time, or to come outside of work for some activities, to get this face-to-face time with each other, to have you remember this picture I showed you 10 minutes ago with its small, tiny moments. So if you are online, it's hard to schedule all those small, tiny moments. You are just scheduling online meetings, spending 10 minutes, 15 minutes, hopefully, or even 1 hour or longer on the meetings, and you just disconnect. So this is one bucket of time, but this is not like right away situations from time to time. So that's why face-to-face contact is important. And when we have those, we can belong to our groups, we can belong to our teams, we can belong then to the something bigger than just us and our computer. That's why some companies, they are focused not just to bring people to the office to work. For example, there are some companies, including myself, who are encouraging people to come to the office and not code, not work together. Not work on your laptop, be there as a have this social time to discuss various topics, to discuss work things, to discuss private things, to have this creativity time together with the whiteboard, with the flip chart, without coding. And that's the way how you can belong to something bigger than yourself, belong to the group. So at the end of this presentation, I would like to leave with you the quotation from Simon Sinek. He said that team is not a group working together. The team is a group of people that trust each other. Thank you very much for time, and I would love to open up for questions.
Excellent stuff, Tomasz. Thank you. I think there's so much interesting material there. And I love your observations on especially the post-pandemic world that we found ourselves in. I've not heard that idea before about getting people into the office, but you're not allowed on the laptops. We're gonna spend some time together. I think that's a fabulous idea. Really focus on, okay, what do we need to get done that we haven't been able to get done during this time? Kind of, there's so much to work through there, but in terms of, a whole organization approach, how do you get that trust to build, top down, bottom up? What kinds of things have you seen work there that people can use to get this underway?
Bottom up, it's happening, and it was actually happening before COVID, because bottom up is if we have motivated people who would like to have the impact, they will try to build the relationships to the top. They will reach out to managers. They will speak, hey, I don't like this idea. I have another idea. Let's talk about that. So I observed in my company that there are a lot of tries to have bottom up activities to build the trust. And I observed also top down. And top down, it's sometimes harder, especially in a hierarchical company, that leaders need to be out there for people. Leaders is not just the ones popping up for some time during the year for the town hall, but leaders in our company, especially, those are the guys who are with the team, speaking with them and telling them true. And that's basically how top-down trust can be built. To say, hey, I can tell you that right now I am not able to tell you something else, but I'm not hiding it. I'm just telling you that I'm not able to share some information. And then people will see, yes, that's something that we can trust them because they are honest with us. So that's the long story short, but it's definitely the long topic to discuss.
No, very good. Thank you. And, imagine, we're starting from day one. Imagine, we're in a new organization maybe, and we found ourselves with these completely siloed teams. What are some of the things you start with to try and get even this conversation underway? How do you even get consideration of this mutual trust thing going from a standing start where we know we haven't got any of this in place? What are some of the good first to try?
The first thing that actually I usually do is that I write the dependencies between the teams. So I put out there on the whiteboard dependencies, all the teams, all the dependencies. Usually it is a very tough exercise with a lot of lines going on from here and there. But then if we see the first picture, the beautiful organizational siloed, and then the second picture, the reality, which is the dependency structure, that's the trigger for the conversation for managers and for people. It looks complicated. Let's do something with that. And if I have this agreement for people, yes, silos are not the best solution here because of all those whole dependencies. It's good to measure though the time that we spent on waiting for someone else. When I show the data, and then I tell them, guys, what's your opinion about that? And usually they have this opinion that, oh yeah, maybe we can work with operations guys for one day or two. And then one day or two it expands to 1 week and 2 weeks and 3 weeks and so on.
Okay. Brilliant. I like that. Again, I think that really brings it home. You know, the visual nature of these are all the areas in which we are dependent on each other. You can guarantee that in a lot of organizations, people are not even aware of that. And I can see
Mhm.
that would be very powerful when you draw it all out. Therefore, how are we going to, you know, improve our world? Brilliant point. I like that. And then, you know, just to finish on, you know, you gave us some great references. I've not come across Brainier stuff before. You know, any good kind of, you know, books on, especially this softer side of building trust that you've come across that you'd recommend,
Mhm.
or forums, or, you know, other speakers that you've seen? What would you kind of
Yeah.
recommend that people can get background on this?
Yeah, definitely. The very first one, the most important one is Brené Brown. She
Yeah.
wrote a lot of books, but there is a one book that I would like to recommend for you is Dare to Lead. And this book proved me, actually that was the very first book when I was reading. This book proved me that those emotional aspects like trust, vulnerability, belonging, and so on. This is not about soft skills, or this is not about something outside of engineering. This is about humans. So we
Mm-hmm.
are humans, and that's how I embraced this topic. Also, Simon
Oh,
Sinek
great.
talks a lot about human skills, not the soft skills,
Mm-hmm.
and I love to I love to listen to him and talk about humans, not just
Sure.
soft.
Oh, brilliant. Dare to Lead. That looks like a really good item to add to the shelf. So I'll certainly be catching up with that. We covered a lot of ground there. I think we're just coming towards the end now. I've not seen any more topics in the Q&A, but again, thank you very much indeed, Tomasz. That was excellent. Lots to think about. And, you know, I would recommend everybody to chase down those references. And you've got Tomasz's contact details on the forum links there. Get in touch. But thank you once again, Tomasz. We'll be in touch soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Finbar. Thank you very much all for listening, and feel free to reach out to me after the session.